Oh, now it is. Okay, welcome everybody to the October board meeting. Happy Halloween. I have some sad news. Some of you, I sent emails to the board and the SPC members. Pam Dugan's mother passed away early Monday morning, and it's going to be on Leppert Mortuaries next week. So if you go on to Leppert, Leppert Mortuaries, you can see her obituary. Her name was Roxy Arbuckle, and she had been ill for a while. But I just wanted to make sure, since Pam is our board chair, that everybody knows that. Thank you to those of you who showed up this evening on the first snow as well as Halloween. We'll get started. We've got a lot of things to cover tonight. First of all, I would ask if everyone has had a chance to review the September 26th board meeting minutes.
It says that we met at the shelter house. We didn't.
Oh, okay.
And then at the adjournment, I wasn't here, we probably adjourned the September meeting, not the August meeting.
Oh.
Okay.
Franklin.
Franklin Snooks. Okay. Any other changes or corrections? Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion we approve.
As amended.
As
Second.
amended.
It's been motioned and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried.
Abstains. So it was-
Mike Blackwell, Treasurer's Report.
For the month of September 2019, $21,259 in income, $60,424 in expenses. Part of those were, if you saw in your packet, consulting engineer payment, $17,632, $17,632. $5,200 in water testing and $8,385 in lake and weed treatment. So that's the bulk of our expenses for September.
Okay.
So,
We haven't received the second draw yet, correct?
correct,
Or
what,
the
December?
second
Yeah,
check
yeah.
comes in December.
Yeah. So if there's no further discussion, I would accept a motion to approve the reported claims for September 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor to approve signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. CD renewal, general fund CD. Okay, I got to catch up.
I can talk about this for a
Thank
second.
you, Adam.
We have a general fund CD coming up for renewal or maturing on November 7th for $82,383. What I'm going to recommend is that we go ahead and close out that CD and deposit into our checking account, and that will enable us to essentially just write a check for the land purchase. We do still have to do the additional appropriation, but this will give us the cash on hand in the checking account to go ahead and move forward with that. So that would be my recommendation of the board, is we go ahead and close out that CD and deposit it into our checking account on November 7th at the mature date.
Thank you, Adam. So if you saw in your board packet, that's an $82,383, $82,000.
It's 83,000.
Oh,
It's 82, I think you downloaded the,
82,383.62.
yeah.
I have a different version.
That's, we forfeited
Ah.
we forfeited $456 because we're
yeah,
cashing
it's
it
right
in a little
Okay.
early, just a little early, really,
All
not
right.
even, I mean, really.
Well, we'll
Okay.
wait until November 7th.
I was gonna
We
say-
can do that.
So
Okay.
so
Yeah.
it's that's fine.
Okay,
I
yeah,
would-
so,
I would move to cash out for the account number, certificate number 371036695, and transfer it to the Conservancy District's checking account.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to cash in the CD as read and put it into the LLCD checking account. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Oh,
For clarity, I presume your motion was at maturity, not early?
Correct.
yes. Thank you. All right. Okay. Check that one off. Okay, now the budget. All right. My favorite time of the year.
Yeah, keep going. This.
Okay, folks, if you've been coming to the meetings, you've been listening to me read the 2020 proposed budget. Tonight is the advertised public hearing for the budget to be approved before the November 1st deadline. We'll start out with revenues. Watercraft permits stayed neutral at $115,000. We increased grants and donations from $7,000 to $12,000. We increased park admission fees from $40,000 to $44,000. Dredging and riprap income, which we've had a really good year this year, increased from $20,000 to $30,000. And we would have eliminated the sediment removal bond. No, we haven't. Are we going to keep that in there, the sediment bond proceeds? 4140? We are, because we are going to get a bond, so we're leaving that in there. The reason I need clarification, because we had to remove it from 2019. Okay. All right, so revenues, pardon me for just a moment. Do you have the total revenues there? Mine didn't total. I blame Franklin. I get it. Here.
The form lines are a lot different than ours.
Yeah. That's why I brought my calculator. Let's see, 5,000. 4,000. 10,000. Pardon me, folks.
Carry the one.
$1,582,750 in revenue for 2020. Pardon me for that, it didn't total when I was reading it. Okay, no questions on revenues, we'll move on to wages. Okay, thank you. We are bringing on a full-time excavator this year. I fully support that, I think the board fully supports that too. So that is going to raise our salaries and benefits from $129,300 to $182,750. However, that will be offset from the hourly that we've been paying him. And so I'll go down now to the hourly addition. And so instead of $217,025, it'll be $226,750 because we are assuming that we'll have more hourly work due to private work. Okay? Supplies. Office supplies has remained neutral. Operating supplies increased by $3,000. Repair and maintenance supplies is neutral, $34,500. And our other supplies was decreased by $100 for a total of grand total supplies $61,900. Moving on to services and charges. We expect an increase in grass mowing from $10,560 to $15,000. Consulting engineers remains neutral at $50,000. Total professional services $74,400. Communications transportation remains neutral at $5,250. Printing and advertising, we're showing an increase of $1,500 due to events for a total of $4,100 in that column category. Insurance will remain neutral at $45,000. So total 2020 budget of services and charges $10,050. Next page is services and charges. Building and grounds, we have $15,500 in the 29 budget. We're lowering that down to $10,000. Equipment rental has been increased $2,500 from $5,000 to $7,500. Total repair and maintenance, $30,500. Other services and charges, the only increase there would be, as a board, we voted to increase the cumulative maintenance fund in the services and charges category from $5,000 to $7,500. Dam and spillway repairs, we put $5,000 in that. Disposal site prep increased $5,000 from $10,000 to $15,000. The debt service bond repayment remained the same at $67,000. Fireworks was an increase from $6,500 to $8,000. Really, the total of other services and charges is only approximate $2,000 increase from $337,000 to $339,100. Last page. Capital, so when we do get our bond, we threw $200,000 into our off-road truck that'll need to be replaced in 2020, we assume. And the sediment mitigation is $950,000, with the remaining $50,000 to go to consulting engineers. We added category or account number 6780 for gatehouse repairs at $30,000. So that increased our grand total capital expenditures from $950,000 to $980,000, with a grand total of total expenditures budget $1,607,750. All right? And that would conclude, yes, ma'am.
No, that's
That-
fine.
That would conclude the final read of the 2020 proposed budget. So with that, go ahead, ma'am.
No, are you gonna go ask for the resolution?
Yes.
Okay.
With that, I would ask a motion to approve Resolution 10-19-05, adoption of the 2020 annual budget and statement of salaries and wages.
I'll make a motion, we accept that, the budget for 2020.
Okay, thank you.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
On this resolution, there's actually 2 places to sign on the main page, and then there's a Form 4, which we'll have to check aye and then sign on there as well, so please make sure everybody gets that.
Okay, next up, 2020 fees and charges.
Okay.
Are you continuing here?
I will, ma'am, if you insist.
He's on the roll, keep going.
That we've had quite a bit of discussion on this. I know at the last meeting, and again, today, we don't have everyone here. I like what I see in front of me. Slight increases in motors with 10 horsepower or larger, $2. $4 increase with boats less than 10 horsepower from $41 to $45. Personal watercraft increased $2 from $123 to $125. So I think what Adam has done here is he's looked at the rest of the state, and I will open it up for discussion if anyone has, before we go to approval.
Well,
What were you?
it seemed like in my packet, the 2020 was, that column was blank.
Oh,
Maybe I had the draft
you
or
have that
something.
printed off down there? Oh, okay. Can I pass
Okay,
it down?
well, it's the same as what we did in August, right?
yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's fine. I mean, the only comment that I'd like to just capture for the record is, I know we talked about an additional fee for wake boats, and it's probably not feasible to try to do that, but I think we ought to think about some way to recoup impact from wake boats. I mean, we found out, it's scientific fact from our study, people that bank erosion contributes to the sedimentation, and that those boats certainly cause more bank erosion than normal. So, just for the record. But otherwise, I have no
Yeah,
objection.
well, I think we'll definitely add that into our codes of conduct form,
Yeah.
that we're gonna form,
Yeah.
fill out, and have everybody sign in there to make them aware and do some education on that, so.
Why,
Okay.
I thought we had an increase on the personal watercraft. Oh, no, the daily permits didn't change, okay, never mind.
Yeah, the daily did not change because the
Okay.
actual fee went up for the past.
Right, yeah, okay.
Then I do have another question on the daily admission fee, and maybe this is a technicality that we can talk about later, but we did kind of discuss maybe thinking about keeping open a couple more weeks instead of Memorial Day to Labor Day, maybe Memorial Day to mid-September or something like that. So I don't know if we'd want to indicate that here, because it says Memorial Day to Labor Day weekend. Or maybe, again, just capture it for the record for further discussion. But I do think there's some merit to charging for a longer period of time because climate change and all that, we're having nicer weather and longer.
Well, what I would propose is, so that it can be done administratively, is say minimally Memorial Day to Labor Day,
Yeah, that's good.
and then that
And then
gives-
that gives us
Gives a little bit of
flexibility.
Right.
leeway,
Yeah.
but-
Sure.
I like that.
Okay. We'll see if we're ready to vote. All those in, well, I need a motion. I apologize. For Resolution 10-19-06, the 2020 fees and charges approval.
I move to approve Resolution 10-1906 as amended with the at minimum language added.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. No more discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And the last thing on my docket here is the 2019 additional appropriation, Resolution 10-19-07. This will be an additional appropriation that we need to show to the DLGF and the State Board of Accounts that we're moving money from to appropriate $100,000 to the Sediment Management Project capital line item 6750. These funds will be used to purchase property, hopefully, to be used as a sediment disposal site. So I don't know if there's any discussion or if someone wants to entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion if there's no discussion.
I have one quick question. Looking at the agenda item that actually has the offer to purchase real estate in it, I noticed in the contingency line, it said contingent upon the successful approval of additional appropriation for the amount of $102,000. So I didn't know if we needed to make a change to that, so it, because,
Hmm.
Yeah, I should probably make
Yeah,
that.
yeah, I
Yeah.
want, yeah.
yeah.
Make
I think
the
that's correct.
purchase,
Yes.
the
Because
purchase.
originally
100
102, but yeah, contingent on the 100,000.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Because the additional appropriation here.
Very good catch, Michael, very good catch.
So we are offering 102,000.
Correct.
When we get to that point,
Right.
Yeah, yeah. And that's based on those
appraisals.
appraisals.
Yeah, well, but the appropriation will just be for the 100,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm fine with it, I just wanted to make
Yeah,
sure that
absolutely.
we didn't get to have a
That's okay.
technicality nit there.
Yes, I guess we'll catch that when we do the,
Yeah.
okay. I have a motion made for the additional appropriation. Mary Jane made a motion pending further discussion, and that's when you step in.
Okay, so we need a new motion.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve Resolution 10-19-07 as amended to read $102,000.
No, we're still going to appropriate 100,000.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The real estate appraisal will need to be changed when Adam gets to that
Okay.
point.
Yeah.
Okay,
So the motion should stand.
so, yes,
And
so
I-
my motion is approve this resolution.
And I second it.
Oh.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any more discussion? All those in favor of approving Resolution 10-19-07, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Tonight, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. This goes this way.
All right, this one goes this way.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
Yes, ma'am.
Next up, we have a resolution to 10-19-08 to approve the 2020 board meeting dates. Has everybody looked at those, and are we all in agreement that those are what we agreed to? If so, I would entertain a motion that we approve those board meeting dates for 2020.
I make a motion that we approve the dates for 2020.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the 2020 meeting dates. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Next up is the manager's report.
First, we'll have some barge operations update. We're still currently in zone 136, which is the northern channel in Chitwood. We've currently removed 5,188 yards out of that zone. Total year to date, we removed, and this was as of Monday? Current, Tuesday, 14,207 yards. The previous record was 13.2. And we'll be over 15,000 yards by the time we're all said and done with some 136. Hopefully it'll be sometime in November before we're done with that. So I would just like to go ahead and point out, I mean, this is Clinton's first year kind of at the helm running the excavator, and we're already, further along than we've ever been. So that's great. Also, we've brought in about 21,000 in private proceeds for dredging jobs and riprap. So that's also kind of one of the top, I believe we're within 500 of the most ever brought in, which was last year. So it's been a very excellent year for the dredging operation. I'm gonna turn on that guy. Next up, we have resolution 101909. And this is an intent to purchase property. We have been working with a sediment management plan. We've kind of been going along with the hydraulic dredging. I think everybody's been aware of this. It's been a couple of years in the making now. And actually a piece of property came up for sale on South Shore Drive, which is an ideal location for a sediment disposal site. The entire property itself is about 14.9 acres. Currently open, what I think we'll be able to use as a disposal site, as the next one, is just over about 6.5 acres, probably over 6. With that, I'm estimating that we can bring in, put over 100,000 cubic yards of sediment there if we purchase the property as it kind of sits. The western part of the property along the creek is a wetland, so I'm not sure how much we will be able to expand to the west there. But we will be discussing that to see as far as we can go with Army Corps and DNR. This would allow us to dredge what would be zones 1 and 2 in our Shrewsbury report for the zones, which is essentially where the Delta and Bean Blossom Creek dumps out. The property's been for sale for a little bit. In the resolution, we must state our intent to purchase the property, as well as a government. We're limited to the average of 2 appraisals from certified appraisers. We did receive the appraisals, which came in at 105,000 and 104,000, I believe. At 105,000, 104,000, so our limit would be 104,500. However, we're going to be offering $102,000, was what we've discussed with the purchasers. The appraisals is kind of a retroactive appointment of Jeff Golden and Gilbert Mordeau, who are both certified appraisers in Bloomington. They've done work in advance, and we have received those appraisals. Both those are attached as exhibits A and B. There's also the intent to purchase the property. The offer to purchase real estate was actually the form that they requested us add into this. What I did add to their form was say that it would be contingent upon the additional appropriation, which when we motion this, we will change the additional appropriation to $100,000, but the offer price will be $102,000. This is all contingent, and it's in the resolution, it's all contingent upon the additional appropriation. The Department of Local Government and Finance legally is obligated to give us an answer within 15 days of submission of that additional appropriation form. I do not see any issues why we would not get that approved since we do have the money in hand. Along with this, it just kind of states that this resolution shall evidence the LLCD's interest in purchasing land located on East South Shore Drive, which is what's been highlighted here. We acknowledge receipt of both property appraisals, which were referenced, and that the appraisals came in above our offering price. So what we will do is cash out the CD, wait until we get the additional appropriation, and then we'll be able to go to the title company and receive the title for that. With the offer to purchase that they gave us, they will be paying for the cost of title insurance and for the title work. So our closing costs really should essentially be zero. As a government property, we do not pay property tax, so there will not be any ongoing property tax for that property as long as we own it. It is currently certified forest. I've been talking with DNR. They said the certified forest does not preclude us from utilizing the open space as a disposal site. And there's also a simple form that governments can use to remove it from certified forest, and there's no cost associated with that, and that's a quick process. So I think it's about time. I mean, this was kind of the missing piece from the dredging operation for the hydraulic dredging, was having the disposal site. So I think this will really allow us to get the ball rolling and hit the ground next year on this. So it's pretty exciting. So with that, I would recommend a motion to approve Resolution 10-1909, the intent to purchase property.
Okay.
Quick question. In looking at the flood map, though, part of the field is in the flood zone.
Small part of it, yeah.
And is that an issue? Can we,
No, our entire Possum Trot disposal site is also in that flood zone.
so they don't care that we're piling up in there?
No, so it should not be an issue. When I talked with them, I've kind of, before we even looked at this, I called DNR to have some preliminary discussions, and they said they did not see anything that would preclude us from that. Since we will be building up the land, there'll actually be land there anyways. And if it does come to an issue, I know a spot where we can get lots of dirt and raise that whole area out and be resurveyed before we apply for a disposal site.
Really?
So I do not foresee that being an issue. I did notice that as well.
Okay.
So, any other discussion?
We think
Questions?
there is enough ground in there to be able to do what we need to do.
Yes, when I was doing calculations, if we do at 6 acres and a 10-foot deep, there you go. At 6.5 acres, if we do a 12-foot deep pond, we can fit 126,000 cubic yards. At 6 acres, even at a 12-foot pond, we can get 116 cubic yards of volume of material. We may be able to even go even deeper than that, and we will see how far we can expand that. There may be some to gain on there. So I believe we will have enough to do the majority of zones 1 and 2 on there.
And the certified forest, what does that actually mean?
So certified forest is, the biggest deal is if you're a tax-paying citizen, what that does is allow your taxes to be $1 per acre, and essentially says that you're gonna leave it natural and not build on it.
Okay.
So the biggest thing is be a tax incentive for a private party.
Okay. And there's a non-tax.
So at the rate, though, you know, the delta would continue, though, to fill in. So I'm just, now that you've done some calculation, do you know how long these things will last?
Well, I mean, they were on the sediment transport side, they're estimating about 40,000 cubic yards per year. So about 3 years worth of sediment. However, that's throughout the whole delta, not just these zones 1 and 2. So some of that is already land, so that'll be building up. So, I mean, it's tough to say, but we have to have somewhere to put it. And then the hope would be, once we utilize this, we can give away that sediment. You know, maybe take a couple years to give away that sediment, raise some funds again, and then reuse that site. We're also going to be continuing discussions with the city of Bloomington for a tract of land on North Shore Drive. We've had discussions with Vic Kelson. He's talking with his board about that. So the hope would be, in the future, we could potentially utilize that land on North Shore as well, and we could kind of rotate back and forth, use one till it's full while we work on clearing out the other, and then jump back.
Okay.
I'll make that motion. Oh, I'm sorry.
And any other discussion or questions? Okay. Would you like to make the
You got it.
motion? Oh, yes, Frank?
Alex, can you roll back one slide?
Adam, in my initial discussions with Terry, he had said that the adjoining property owner to the east wanted the green space plus the woods and only up to the line of the woods. And we're kind of split the green space between the road and the woods. Is that where it ended up being?
So within Brown County, if it would have been like the property owner that is adjacent to that, if she would have been purchasing the property, they could have gone right to the wood line.
Right.
But it's her son purchasing it, so it's a minimum 3-acre parcel split in Brown County for them to be able to split the parcels.
Okay.
So they had to go to 3 acres, which did cut it out. What I am going to do though is go have discussions with the purchaser and see if we can't do some type of land contract like we did with Kenny Clark, where we can potentially utilize that land as well. And there's probably another acre there to be gained if we can do that.
Yeah, and it all would have been relating to how they originally asked the question to Brown County zoning. So it's just a straight track, yes, it is only a 3-acre parcel, but they could have gone down as small as 1/4-acre parcels if they were gonna subdivide. So it all depends on what their original intent is to put one parcel or multiple parcels in there. But yeah, so I understand what they're doing there. And then for clarity for the board, once we make a classification and remove the certified forest area for the forested area, then we can go in and log portions of that area, deal with the wetland potential classification and remediation. The ground is actually higher as we move towards the center line of the green space, and we'd be able to use the stump collection debris for the logging that we take out. Alex, you want to go to the other slide that you had up? For the trees that we do take out, we'd be able to dump their stumps in the wooded area as part of environmental management. And then we would still, there's more than a dozen, nearly 20 good logging trees all the way towards the road to the far west. So we would have some potential income to help
Yeah.
offset some of all that stuff later on when we got into the site prep.
And we have talked with Terry the seller about that as well. Although he said let's get the land purchase done and we can negotiate tree removal.
Thanks, Frank. I would add at this point, because I'm going to let Mike make this motion in a minute, but I want to say thank you again. I know we've talked about it. Pam's mentioned it in previous meeting. Frank is the person who kept his eye on this land, and we really appreciate that, because this is going to, what they told us from the beginning was if you didn't have some place to put your dirt, you could have the best hydraulic dredging program in the world, but not having a place to put the dirt will kill it. So I think this is kind of a big deal that we're making this decision tonight. Any other discussion, questions? Mr. Blackwell, would you like to make a motion?
I would like to make a motion to approve Resolution 10-19-07.
Oh, no.
I'm sorry, 09, I'm on the wrong, 09, intent to purchase property with the amendment of the right to purchase contingent on the, rather than 102,000 appropriation, the 100,000 appropriation that Michael mentioned.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Yeah. Okay,
Still on
managers task force.
So since we have a lot going on, and there's definitely some more expertise financially on the board than I have, and I could definitely use some help with the financing, capital campaign, as we're going forward. I'm going to actually be delegating or creating 2 task forces, manager-led task forces, to help me out to get this work done. And my goals are twofold, where I can bring in some additional knowledge and expertise to help me, and then it also gets a little bit more board involvement, since we can't have board members at the SPC. So what I'm actually going to be doing is creating 2 task forces and setting 3 leaders all on the board from that. Within these task force, the 3 leads of the task force will be able to bring on additional knowledge experts and help as they see fit. These task groups will report to me and work with me, and then we'll give updates. That'll kind of help me get some information as we move forward, and I'll be reporting to the board. So the first task force that we're going to be creating is a capital campaign. And with this, we'll be selecting Pam Dugan, Laura Shell, and Mary Jane to help out on this. And the capital campaign is actually going to be creating our fundraising to help fund our Lake Lemon enhancement funds, so we can do additional work for the sediment management plan and enhancing recreation potential at Lake Lemon. So this will really be to help get that capital campaign off the ground. The second is going to be a finance task force, and that's actually more internal, looking at as we're transitioning through different types of dredging projects, moving forward with staff needs, park maintenance and creation, kind of helping to plan out a moving financial plan since the operation is ever changing. So for that, I would like to go ahead and bring on Deborah Ladyman, Mike Blackwell, and Mary Jane. Mary Jane, you're gonna be busy. And then again, these task
And we
forces
still
will
have the
bring
strategic
on-
planning committee too.
You're not really retired.
And they'll be able to bring on people as they see fit to help out with that, so. I don't think we need anything on that. This is
No,
letting
I
you
don't
know.
think so. But I would just echo that we need to get some momentum on these topics, and the best way to do it is to have these interim task forces.
All right, next we have
Continue.
off-season park and men's usage discussion. We generally let people utilize the park in the off-season as long as they're not partying and messing with stuff. We do shut down the restrooms, so we've never had an issue with people walking dogs, shoreline fishing. We're pretty open to that. We did have an incident a couple weeks ago where we had a heat wave on a weekend after it's been cold. The beach was shut down, and we were turning out a bunch of people. Well, unfortunately, one of the people that were turned around was the IU provost. And she voiced her concern about not being able to use the park as she has in the past to the board. So we were asked by Les and some of the board members to have a discussion about off-season admittance and park usage. And kind of one of the things that we've come up with our discussions between me and Les is potentially using signage to notify that, we're closed to public, but we don't really mind foot traffic as long as being respectful. But we also don't want to go so far as to say we can't kick you out if we have to do something. So I think what we're kind of settling on or looking at is potentially changing signage or adding signage stating that vehicular traffic is going to be forbidden from that area. And then potentially saying that foot traffic is welcome, or just saying that the vehicle traffic is forbidden and not even mentioning the foot traffic, and then we can utilize our sound judgment on that. So I don't know what.
That sounds like a better approach, I think. You don't want to say too much.
No, I hate
Just do
I hate
nothing.
to have the situation where we're doing something in the park or working in the park or we need to close, and then we have people feel legally
I
obliged.
provided some sample signage.
Yes.
Of when I was with the Forest Service, because we had similar situations, and most of them said something like, close to vehicular traffic, foot traffic, we're welcome, or something like that. And then people could just walk in, and yeah, we could still kick people out if they weren't obeying the rules,
Welcome may be the word that troubles me in that. We could say foot traffic accepted. That way then you don't, if you have to say someone who's walked in who's misbehaving, can't say, well, it said I was welcome. I don't know, maybe I'm splitting
Well,
hairs.
but I mean, I would argue that we welcome people during the summer, and if they're screwing up, we can
Then
kick
we
them
kick
out.
them out. Yeah, I guess that's right.
Yeah.
I kind of believe in just trying to be as open as we possibly can and welcoming, and and my thought too is, as we do fundraising and stuff, we need support of the community, and the more we can offer, the better we look, in my
That's true.
mind. And so that's maybe one way to do that, and also take the burden off of your gatehouse people trying to decide, is this person okay and this one not, It kind of.
Let them come in and prove it.
Well, you know, because I think what they said is if it looked like they were going to party, they wouldn't let them in or something.
Well, if we have a lot of people coming in when we're closed down, and you can tell they're going to the beach. I mean, generally
Yeah.
what we do if they got a dog, if they're there exercising,
And
if they're
cooler.
shoreline fishing, we just really listen to what their purposes are.
What was the
there.
refreshment that you said was a
If there's
warning?
more than two polar pops.
Polar Pops.
Do what?
Polar Pops.
Oh.
But really, I mean, we're always really open for dog walking, exercising, and shoreline fishing. But at that point, since we do have reduced staff time, we don't really want, groups of, say, 10 cars coming in and then bringing tons of stuff in there and then leaving trash. And I know trash is part of it. With reduced staff, we do want to kind of discourage that. But usually dog walkers and fishermen are kind of carry in and carry out.
You've got a couple of picnic tables in the water too.
Currently?
Yes. We went by Monday, I drove by, and there was like 2 or 3 picnic tables that were.
Yeah, they move them down
In the
there.
water.
They migrate towards
They do.
the
Yeah.
water.
Just FYI, before it gets too bad or frozen.
I think
they would drag
the
it.
other point on signage though is, it says park closed, but, I think to the public, they kind of think, in my mind even, well, the park is the real point. And so it says park closed, but yet the boat ramp's open. So it's only partially closed. And so that, I think that's another sign we need to.
Like beach closed.
Beaches.
Yeah.
There are beach closed, and what we've always considered in the past is the park from the gates back, and then the other part, the ramp.
But I think-
I think the
Oh,
key
but
is
you-
just
I
gonna be-
agree with
The
Les.
public
Yeah.
perception is it's a park.
It's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all a park, and so we may want to rethink that sign too.
We just need a Marty Moose there.
What?
Marty Moose from.
The moose out front should have told you.
Exactly. Sorry for the park closed.
So I think the key
Okay,
thing
we
is
need
gonna
to
be
work on the
updating
signage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the takeaway, just update signage to kind of clarify, boat ramp is year-round, park, and then foot
But
traffic.
yeah, beach is closed.
Yeah, and the beach is that's a legal issue because of permitting.
Yeah.
But so I think that we'll work on some signage, and I'll work with you on less this winter time. And I don't really think we need any motions or anything on that. I think that can be administrative, but we'll work with that just to
Right.
try to
And then you
clarify
can
some of these.
follow up at a future meeting.
Absolutely.
Anything else?
No, that's the manager's report.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda are the conflict of interest forms and the marina agreements. We have received the Shell Marina conflict of interest forms, and we,
Actually, it was my conflict, not the marinas, but
Laura's conflict of interest, I'm sorry.
it's okay.
And we need to, hopefully you've reviewed the marina agreements, club agreement, and the service agreement and the sale of boat permits.
I would move acceptance of Laura's conflict of interest form and the approval of the provided agreements.
Wait,
Well, we
mine-
don't need a,
Mine's just
we
accepted.
just need a motion
Mine-
on
mine
the
accepted.
Okay.
marina club agreements and the service agreement.
And we have to break those down because I cannot vote on, I have to abstain
Yeah.
from,
Okay, so first,
let's make it complicated.
I need a motion on the marina club agreement.
So moved.
Okay.
Second? Any opposed?
I abstain.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. I did that backwards, sorry.
And I did abstain.
But Laura abstained, that was the important part.
Yes.
All right, next we have the Shell Marina LLC service agreement, sale of boat permits.
No, those were just accepted, those were not. You just received those. It's contracts that were,
Oh, it's only
it's only contracts that were,
the agreement.
only the agreements.
The service agreement, we don't need a motion?
And we've always done, we just have to
Accept them.
to mention acceptance of that we received the conflict, but we do need a motion for the agreement.
Yes,
For the service agreement.
no,
For both of those. Because that is a binding contract, so we do have to motion for that.
oh, yes, yes.
We just have to say that we received the conflict, but we do have to motion, and we can do those together. We have to
Pam, come
motion-
Since we did
okay.
the club separate, I will move to approve the service agreement as presented.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
I abstain.
It's been moved and seconded and that we accept the marina service agreement. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
And then generally for the approval of the 2020 agreements, these are our annual agreements. Real quick, surplus parcel agreement, which is the sublease program, commercial surplus parcel, which there are two currently. There's Pop Stock and Lift, and there's Sands Properties, which would be the Porthole. Land use agreement with Kenny Clark, which is our Spillway Road disposal site. 2020 agreement for use of Myrtle Point Park Boys and Girls Club. That one's actually mandated in our lease. Marina Club agreements with the Bloomington Yacht Club. Myrtle Point Park agreement with Myrtle Point Rowing Association. Special use agreement with the IU Water Ski Slalom Course. The IU Rowing Team agreement. And then we have Watkins Accounting for our accounting service agreement. Carmen Parker for legal service. And then First Insurance Group for insurance agreement. There's been no changes in cost or fees or revenue associated with these in the past. They've all just been updated for dates.
So,
I will make a motion to approve all of the listed 2020 agreements, A through L, as discussed by the manager.
Second.
it's been moved and seconded to accept all of these agreements, A through L, on the agenda. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, next we just
The
have
election
board
update.
election update. Currently this year we have areas 3 and 5 districts that will be up for re-election. This will be for a 4-year term. We have sent out informational cards and advertised in the newspaper for this. The actual election, if we have a contested election, will take place at our February annual meeting. I have received nomination forms for District 3, Mary Jane Brown, and District 5, Les Wadzinski, to be running again next year. As of now, they are uncontested. So that is where we stand on that.
So I don't
Thank you
need the
guys for
bumper stickers
nominating.
yet.
It's a shoe-in, Les, don't worry. You're in.
That's really election update. We'll keep everybody notified if we do receive other nominations.
When's the deadline for nominations?
December 1st. So we have to receive everything by December 1st, or they have to be postmarked before December 1st to the office for nominations.
You guys gonna be camped out in front of the door?
Okay, thank you, Adam. Strategic Planning Committee update. Adam has gone through several of the things that we talked about, but I will add that we also discussed gatehouse quotes and options that Les had put together and to replace, and we have the $30,000 in next year's budget for that. And the committee is still looking at this and agreed that Adam and Les need to check with the CBU and Monroe County for building codes and approval. And so I'm anticipating that at a board meeting in the not too distant future, the committee will have a recommendation on what we want to do with the gatehouse.
Okay, and I did find some construction drawings, which I think I emailed you guys.
Yeah.
As a
We'll-
starting point. Ours would want to be bigger, but I thought that was a good, a good layout.
Okay, we'll take that up at the next SPC meeting and then
Okay,
put it together for the full board.
okay.
Les also presented his findings on possible ways to better eradicate geese around the lake, and there is going to be a story in the newsletter,
There is,
which
and
is
it's very
now
good.
now in live and published about that. So we had quite an interesting discussion about the geese, and then I started to feel sorry for them.
Shoot 'em.
I'll send them your way.
But there are a number of things that you can do with them.
Yeah, I just comment, the article was really good, I thought, so that was good that it got in there.
It did include euthanizing and birth control. which-
Yes.
We
Yeah.
talked about a lot of interesting things about geese. Anyway, the other thing that we did discuss, and I'm going to ask Adam to speak to this for a minute. We talked about the east end vegetation maintenance line, and can you give us an update?
Yeah, let's get to the next one. So we have, so we'll start here. In pre-2015, our vegetation maintenance line, which is essentially where we treat Lotus 2, was this yellow dashed line on the map. In 2015 and 2016, I came to the realization that we can't treat because some of those areas are trees now and land, and a lot of it is less than a foot of water, and you can't even get boats there to get chemicals. So what I actually did in 2015 is, on my own, is decided that we would change this to 150 feet from the shoreline to maximize benefits on vegetation. Well, there's a pushback on that. And what we settled on in 2016 by motion of the board was this blue line, which was our kind of hybrid line or alternative line. That way we could maximize lotus fields. They do take up nutrients, they catch sediment, they stabilize sediment with their root structures. They're very beneficial. So we utilized that, and that was implemented in 2016. So 2016, 17, 18, and this year we've actually been utilizing that blue line as where we treat our maintenance too. These lines are marked by GPS, utilizing ArcGIS. So the vegetation control do actually use on their boats the mapping systems to treat these. Well, this year we did have a resident in District 6 that has written some letters to the board and is upset about how far the Lotus has come out to where it's at, and has requested that we move the Lotus lines back. And there's been some discussion in Strategic Planning Committee and then via letters, and I think the board has received all these letters, and the attorney has received all these letters. And so what they were proposing is pushing back the maintenance line, to push it back. A couple things that would do is, a lot of that area is very shallow, and you really do need the root structures of these plants to stabilize these areas. If we were to be going in and dredging immediately in these areas, pushing it back further, I think would be very fine if you were to come in. But if we're not gonna be able to get to those areas for a couple of years, which may be the case, it looks like this round of hydraulic dredging will primarily be the open bay and what we call zones 1 and 2 from the Shrewsbury report, is where the dredging will be at. So potentially pushing those back too far could have some bad impacts, such as destabilizing the sediment, allowing it to slough around. So there's some impacts there. You're gonna go to the next line. So through talking with them, we've actually come up with, this was what I proposed as a 2020 maintenance line it's a little tough to read up there, as a 2020 maintenance line to kind of push the vegetation back so it's not directly in front of the houses. And I know one of the concerns was having a direct line of sight to the lake proper, an open lake, and I believe that this maintenance line accomplished that, because most of the properties in the northeast and the far east where these homes are actually now have a line of sight to the main lake. Let me go to the next one. So here is actually the lines overlaid on our most recent bathymetric study. The yellow lines are our current Lotus maintenance lines. On that bathymetric study, those are currently going through areas that are less than 2 foot deep. The 2 foot bathymetric line or depth contour is actually closer to the channel there. So this is already going through a very shallow area. The proposed maintenance line is the red line, so it actually does open up a little bit more area in that zone, and it really only changes it on the northern boundary. The southern boundaries remain the same as the vegetation line. After we proposed that, we did receive letters back that they were not happy with that. They would like to see more, and if you hit the line, this black line that just popped up was the proposed line of the freeholder. I am a little weary of this for 2 reasons. One, in the southern part of the boundary, it extends the Lotus field out into the lake, which we do not want to do, especially that we're dredging. And then in the northern part, we're actually going into areas that are less than a foot deep. This really light blue area around the land is less than a foot deep of water. So that's actually cutting into areas where it is extremely shallow. If you remove the vegetation back that far, then you're going to be subject to erosion and sloughing of sediment just from wave action, rain action, and it's not, you can't boat there, and I'm not sure we'd be able to treat much of that. This was at normal pool when we did this, so for really a lot of the area, we're usually below normal pool a little bit, so a lot of that is going to be potentially well below 1 foot of water. So what we need to do is, and we don't even have to do it tonight, we can't even apply for these permits until next year. Ultimately, DNR has the say of what we can and cannot treat. We apply for the permit that we want to do. So really, it's just kind of for a discussion to see, how much we want to move it. If we want to move it, then we can make a decision later on, since it would not impact this year at all. Since we are planning on dredging and that is moving forward, I am in favor of pushing it back a little bit, which would be my red proposed maintenance line. I would not be in favor, and I'm opposed to the other line and pushing it back further, because I think that's really going to result in that sediment moving towards the channel, which will result in increased maintenance. The other thing that you have to worry about is the ecosystems in here. It's like a teeter-totter. On one end, you can either have vegetation that provides both benefit to the lake, water quality, and on the other end, if you take away that vegetation, what it does is the ecosystem kind of transfers to an algae-based system. So if you do take away that lotus, what you're going to see first come in is Eurasian milfoil, which in some of those very shallow areas when you're boating now, you can almost see it looks like an astroturf right at the water's level, and that's Eurasian milfoil. And then if you were to go to treat that, what will happen is it will be algae with how shallow that is. What happens is the light can penetrate that entire water column because it's so shallow. So I mean, it's a bloom waiting to happen. So personally, I think the lotus provides a lot of benefit. We are only going to be able to hydraulically dredge up to where the maintenance lines are. So that is why I think if we do push it back some, it does give us more area in the future to potentially dredge. However, I would be very weary of pushing it back further than that. We do have one resident in the area, Rex. I don't know if you would like to speak on this, or?
Well, one thing that when we were talking about that line, we were only talking about taking that line to the point where it intersects with the north-south line. We weren't taking that line all the way to Ellis Point.
All right.
We were only talking about, and that was we thought that was a good selling point because from the point it intersects, it's clear water all the way to Ellis Point.
Mm-hmm.
So we weren't talking about filling in the south end. For one thing, it'd be in Mike's district, and he wouldn't go for that either. So
Well,
and I wouldn't want to either.
well, I don't know about, you said clear water, I mean,
Open
yeah,
water, open.
Well, so just taking it to the intersection.
yeah.
Right. I just been taking it to the intersection rather than taking it all the way, and.
Are you okay with the red line?
I'm okay with the red line, yes. I think, in fact, I like the red line. In fact, I got a chance to read that letter that you wrote, that when you answered all those points.
Mhm.
I thought, and I saw that it had also been distributed to the board, so I really hadn't, I don't have a copy of it, so I really can't make reference points to it. But I thought that you did a really good job of explaining, what the milfoil actually, because I think Jim didn't even understand that milfoil was a local,
Or the lotus, yeah. The lotus is a native plant. It's
It's a
very
native plant,
beneficial.
right.
The milfoil is invasive.
And I thought your explanation about the lotus was really good, and then your reference calling it like a rebar kind of thing.
Mhm.
One thing that I did think about the letter, when you were talking about the mismanagement of the drawdown, because the drawdown really never worked. It wasn't so much mismanagement, it just never worked.
Yeah, correct.
Half the time we couldn't get the water down anyway.
Mhm.
We would open it up and, it still wouldn't work. And then even when we did get it down, a couple of times, we had it down, it never even dried up before the rains came in January and filled right back up again. So I don't know if we really ever killed any of the lotus roots,
Probably
with the drawdown. I don't think it ever worked at all.
No, and to that point, I was actually reading a letter from our aquatic control, our vegetation management, and they said, since we're so far south, in order to maximize a drawdown, we'd actually have to start drawing down right after Labor Day so that soil can de-water.
Right.
Or else the ice kind of insulates the root structures on
Well,
there.
then, when we did get it drawn down a couple times, as soon as, when the really cold weather came in, we got a snow like 3 days before that, and
Mhm.
so the snow insulated the ground too, so, you know, so I think there was only 1 year really that it really worked at all, a little bit, but it was really more killing little maybe milfoil rather than killing any lotus,
Yeah.
you know, so.
So Adam, the proponent of this idea, all he really is gaining is that triangle there, right?
Yes.
From, I mean, to me, that's like no big deal. I don't see I think, I mean, it'd be plenty, if it's a visual thing, your proposal is more than adequate, and I don't see why he would even care about that little triangle.
Keeping.
Thank you, Alex.
Actually, I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
you'll need the triangle because that's where the upper part of the delta puts its water out. So you want some more blockage there. You don't want to cut it too close to them.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I don't quite get the guy's objection because I think you've already given him what he wanted, a better view of the lake, and that little bit is not going to give him much
And
more.
I know it maximize the view, but really just the potential impacts of having water that shallow with no stabilizing structures is
Yeah.
just completely opposite of longevity of access.
So what do we have to do?
I mean, if we wanted
We have to
to,
propose,
eventually what we will have to do is do a motion to set the line where we want it. Once we apply for the permitting for the treatment, that goes to DNR. They yay or nay it, and they have the ultimate say on that. I have had discussions with her, and since we are planning to get in there and then dredge that, I don't think they have any issues, or I think they will approve that proposed 2020 maintenance line. They were weary about us going again into too shallow water and treating that because
Sure.
I think it'll have the opposite effect of what we're looking for. So I mean, we could either accept that, or we can just have the discussion here. I know Jim's not here who wrote the letters to be part of the discussion. So really, we could just say this is an informational right now and some visuals.
and then come back to it in
and
December?
Come back to it, yeah. I'm
Okay.
not in a rush. I mean, we won't be treating until, when do we do this?
Yeah.
Right,
August next year?
So Adam,
Okay.
can I ask you a question?
Yes.
When I came in tonight, I saw that there are patches of relatively bright green that are now developing up there in where the yellow bends at the top. What is that I'm seeing?
The bright green in the water, that's where that milfoil comes
That
in
is
and it
milfoil.
chokes it out, and then algae actually grows on top of it, yes. So I can kind of write along those lines how, what I say, I akin it to astroturf, you can kind of see, but that's where the milfoil gets so dense. And that's actually, the root structures are thin, there's no stabilization, it's invasive, and it's so thick it's actually not good for fisheries. I mean, fish can't even move through them. So that's really all we need for tonight. We were going to discuss it. Jim couldn't get here, and Pam, that area district. So I say we just kind of table the discussion and.
okay, you
I'm
good?
I'm good.
I'm good.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. That's the end of the SPC report. It's time for public comment. Mr. Van Overmeren?
This kind of perfect dovetail to what Adam just finished discussing, and what Adam has described along the way as part of when we finally get to our sediment management, we've, consistent with what the Shrewsbury report discusses, we were taking out sediment in areas 1 and 2, which is what we're kind of sort of planning on. But this is what I'm going to propose that we bring through the strategic, through the Lake Health Task Group, the Strategic Planning Committee, and then ultimately to this group. Maybe we can pass this one around. Essentially, what I would be proposing to the Lake Health Task Group is we kind of phase our sediment management hydraulic dredging. We start with areas 1. There's 3 of them. There's one up in Pam's district where
Okay.
Mr.
Yeah,
Scrimmager has his issue, which is essentially pushing back all of the shallow area to the maintenance line, to what we eventually get approval from DNR to do. And that eliminates the milfoil area from growing because we put it to a depth to where we don't get the milfoil growing. And the second point is, then we don't have to spray for
We
vegetation.
wouldn't have to spray it.
So we're saving dollars in future years. If we're looking at, on the low end, $30,000 for vegetation spray, on the higher end, in the 50 to 60,000 range, if we save 30,000 a year in vegetation spray, over 5 years, we've just paid for more than 1/10 of our bond that we're looking for. So that's an important piece. So we have one area there, we have one area over down in District 7, and then we have a third area over by Steve. Kind of at my area, Adam, to when we do talk to DNR, if we can straighten out that piece that comes from Possum Trot, and instead of having the vegetation in the sediment field growing to where it pushes the sediment towards the shoreline, it allows it to flow more into the basin of the lake. So we're not adding sediment underneath people's docks as much, because we're allowing more of a clear flow is what we're essentially doing by not allowing that barrier to maintain. Then second piece, go to the orange, which is kind of that existing delta that if we don't attack it real soon, we're gonna start to grow vegetation and we're gonna have a wetland area. Then we move to area 3, which is essentially the rest of the maintenance line. And then as we have dollars available, we go to areas 4, the 4s, which are all the shallowest areas that we can eventually pick up. So I'm just, again, this is something that I'm looking forward, rolling forward, just as public comment to dovetail with Adam just discussed, that we'll be bringing through the strategic planning committee back from
This
the
is
Lake
good.
Health Task Group, try to get consensus of everybody and ultimately come back to you on how, where we actually do dredge once we do start dredging.
Okay, thank you.
When would we know where the maintenance line can be moved?
Once we apply, we can apply after the beginning of the year for that permit, so we,
Then
normally we don't
when
apply
they,
until later on.
when they respond, how quickly do they normally respond?
2 weeks to 4 months.
Okay, so it's not like,
Not 9 months.
So if it's put on,
not like a surprise next Christmas.
Yeah, but we can apply at the beginning of
put on the
year.
December agenda possibly, or the January agenda? Is that what we're thinking?
Well, we're not, he can't apply until after the first of the
He
year.
can't apply till we approve it, till the board approves it, is that
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So-
We've got to approve it.
We can do this in, we could approve it in
We
December.
can do it in June, I won't be here in December.
Well, do
We
we
can do
need
it.
you to be here?
No, we don't.
You mean Franklin will run?
Franklin will be here.
If you grab the wheel.
Okay,
Franklin will have the con.
all right, but we should do it as quickly as we can,
Okay.
so.
I think that one more.
I'm just curious, I see you guys up by the causeway with your scooper, and why are you guys up in there so much this year than previous years?
We're digging in Chitwood, so we do have to go.
So you just trolling around there?
Yeah, we have both.
to cut straight from the disposal site.
They gotta go around it.
Oh, okay.
See, currently, we can't drive to this zone 2 and 4, which is, we'll have to discuss this,
I just got one.
but currently, we can't
To bring
even,
up.
we had to actually dredge to be able to get the barge around Solid Point.
Should we list holidays? We're gonna have 3 employees.
I did not know.
Which is all mud.
Let's take that off. Let's take that
I
off.
thought I was rolling
That's
along.
a good point. This is part of what you guys do.
Yeah.
So it's gotten so bad, we actually had to
In my
dig a
group.
channel to be able to get the
Okay.
barge around Solid
But I
River.
agree.
So we actually have to come down
We
and go
don't-
along
yeah.
the causeway
So
and
kinda
cut up
like a-
there.
See, we don't have a
No
boat, so we're
contract.
not on
Okay.
Big Lake, so
All right.
Yeah.
I had no clue that
I'm
you
with
guys
ya.
couldn't even get around through there.
These are the depths, that's the 10-foot
Yeah.
depth.
So you see there, they gotta go
Yeah,
under
those are the
that.
depths,
That's,
yeah.
you're only a 1
Normally,
foot
the
depth.
board will approve
Yeah.
holiday
Yeah,
schedules
so he's
and
gotta
things
go
like
around
that.
Mm-hmm.
See,
Every
we came
year.
up with the reasoning, it was because they were doing the ski.
No. He's practicing this again.
Okay, anything else? Well, thanks for coming out on the ugliest night of the year so far, and our next meeting will be Thursday, December 12th at 6 PM, right here in this room.
Christmas party?
Yeah, Santa will be here. Yeah, I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second?
Motion has been made and seconded to adjourn the meeting. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Have a nice evening. Do I press the red button again?